I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on GBN, we're diving into one of the most inspiring redemption stories you'll ever hear. We're talking with Eduardo Vivero, and he has penned a wonderful book. It details his transformation from prison inmate to real estate investor. The name of the book, From Kilos to House Keys. It is raw, unfiltered, and packed with real life lessons on turning pain into purpose and crime into credit building. It's not just a story, it's a blueprint for those looking to break cycles and build legacies. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him on TV today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Eduardo, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Yes, it's a pleasure, sir.
A pleasure to have you on the show. Let's start with the beginning. How did you first get involved in the street life?
Well, when I first started getting involved in the street life, it was in the mid 80s, young, maybe about 7, 8 years old. My parents, they're migrant workers and they were always constantly working. So we had a lot of like free time. So there was some people, some kids around the neighborhood that we just started doing like hanging out, up to no good, trying to get attention, and you just pretty much not in the right environment and didn't have the right guidance. And eventually, everything started snowballing down when, in the late 1980s, when my parents separated, I moved with my mother, and right there, it was more gangs, more criminal activity going on. So, and that right there, little by little, I just like wanted to get accepted. I wanted to be cool. I wanted to be part of that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so, like monkey see, monkey do, I wanted to be part of that.
Yeah.
And eventually, I got my first tattoo at 12 years old. And I thought it was biggest thing ever, like
Yeah.
I felt like very superior. I was like, oh, look at me. Then shortly after, my brother got incarcerated in 1994. He was 17 years old, and he was in there for a crime that I like actually was proud of. Like, yeah, that's my brother. He's locked up for this crime, and like that was just a badge of honor. That's the mentality I have at that time, which is very polluted now. Like, wow,
Yeah.
that's the so. Then eventually, I started like we started stealing cars, started vandalizing, and I finally I went to juvenile hall the first time, and yeah, I was upset. I was a little kid. I was 12 years old, and yeah, I when I got released, that was like wow, like now I'm cool. Like that's like the thing to do, like now I'm able to like earn my reputation like that, and I thought by going in and out of jail, CYA was like the next step to be more cool. And eventually I ended up in Vision Quest. Then from there, I became a program failure. Then I went to CYA in 1995. Then from 95, I was in and out from CYA until 2001. And CYA, I experienced a lot of, well, there was gangs. I was part of it. And, there were a lot of fights, riots. And so I get out in 2001 and I'm trying to do right. I'm like, okay, you know what? That's it. I want to do right in life. And not only because I wanted to do right, but like something happened to my father. And I'm like, okay, I need to like make sure I need to prove myself to do right now. I don't want to go ever, be incarcerated again. But little by little, I got comfortable, and next thing you know, I started selling drugs. And shortly after, I got arrested in 2002, I believe, for a stolen car. And then from there, in 2003, well, when I got released from the county jail in 2002, I went back to the same environment, same people, same mind structure. Nothing has changed.
Mm.
And back again, back to my same habits. And shortly after, in 2003, they're kicking in my door. The SWAT team, like, hey, we know who you are. like, hey, you're busted. Like, wow, you're the dope man. I said, no, you got the wrong house. And they're like, no, we don't. We know who you are. So they didn't find no narcotics, but they got a gun. So when I got released after that, uh, nothing has changed. My mindset was completely identical. Besides not trusting nobody. Like, well, I don't want to trust a lot of people now because somebody did, they snitched on me. And so from that point on, eventually, once again, I try to do right though. Like, okay, I don't want to sell drugs, but it was like the same mindset of a poor person. Like, we're broke. How can we pay bills? How can we do this? How can we succeed? How can we, like get from point A to point B? We need money. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I met somebody that I knew for a while, and he goes, hey, the next big thing is in Tijuana, Mexico. I said, oh, okay. So he said, hey, just wait for the phone call, man. And, I was motivated. I'm thinking I'm slick. I'm thinking I'm smart. And next thing you know, I'm on my way to Mexico. I have family members in Tijuana. So it was like, it was not out of the ordinary. And once I got to Tijuana, I was addicted instantly. Day one, like the fast life. I said, wow, I love it. Compared to Stockton, it was like I had to keep up mentally, and I had to like, wow, this is awesome. I love this type of life. And of course, not next thing you know, we go back to the drugs, and next thing you know, it's 2006. I'm crossing the border where I have some drugs in my dashboard, and I hate to say this, and I'm so sorry about this, but it's my mother's car.
Wow.
Like, yes, that's how like my mind was so like it was distorted, very distorted. So I get arrested in 2006. The canine alert. They find 13 kilos,
Mm.
and they arrest me. They take me, to MCC San Diego. From there, they're telling me that it's 10 years mandatory if you don't cooperate. I said, okay, we're going back and forth because they want me to cooperate if I'm able to, if I want to reduce my 10 years.
Mhm.
So once I say no, just give me my time. So I get the 10 years, and from that time to this time, from 2006 to 2014, I did not educate myself. Like my mindset was totally the same. Like, yeah, my mindset was like, yeah, come out, go get a job, and try to do right. But I didn't have no set goals, nothing besides, hey, I'm free. 2014. Shortly after, once again, I get back to the same environment, same people, and I'm like, they're involved in certain things, and I gradually get connected again. And next thing you know, I get out December 2014. Next thing you know, September 16, 2015, excuse me, that's when they raided my house again.
God.
And that right there was just a big eye opener. And that opened my eyes when I see my mother handcuffed, crying. And I was like, this is my fault, 100%. I did this to my mother. And I said, that's it. I am done. I am 100% done. I need to change my life. I need to change my friends. And that's it. I am like 100% sure that I'm going to do that after seeing my mother like that. So that was 2015. So I go to state prison. Well, I go to state prison because it's a state case.
Mhm.
Then from once I finish my state case, I go to federal prison to serve my remainder violation. But during that time, I run into a book. It's called The Law of Success by Napoleon Hill, which I had no idea who that was. And I
Mm.
wasn't even interested at first. But then I started reading some characteristics. I said, oh, okay, let me try it out. Even though I've been struggling a lot with education as a kid, and I still kind of do, my reading, my comprehension is kind of hard. But that one right there, I'm like, let me read it. And I reread it and read it. And I said, okay, this time I know what I have to do when I get released. So I got released in 2018. And one of my conditions was I can't go back to Mexico, which I never want to.
Mm.
And I can't go back to my parents' house, which, it was a bummer. But I was fortunate enough to have a cousin to give me a room while I got situated. And so eventually, I'm looking for work. I'm getting rejected left and right. I have a criminal record. I'm an ex-felon. So eventually, I get hired at a warehouse job as an order selector, and I start applying the one of the principles from the book. Not afraid to do what. Don't be afraid to get. Don't be afraid to do more than what you get paid for. And once I started applying that habit, everything was changing. Like wow, I was standing out as an order selector. And one of the order selectors mentioned, like, hey Eddie, they pay us 14.50 an hour. Why are you working so hard? They're only going to get 14 out of me. Why are you doing that? I said, bro, I'm just coming to work and do my job. And if I'm gonna do my job, I'm gonna do it well. I didn't mind I didn't mind taking the initiative. I didn't mind working overtime. If they wanted me to come early, I came in early. If they wanted me to stay over, I'll stay over. The sixth day, I was with it. And just because that mindset, that little simple mindset of not being afraid to do more than what you get paid for, I was sticking out. So shortly, like maybe 3 months later, one of the main supervisors or management tells me, hey, congratulations, it's stake time. You're going to get paid $21 from 14 to 21. I said, oh, okay,
Mhm.
thank you. Like that was a reward, like, wow. Then, and one day we're having a meeting, an annual meeting with slides and stuff like that, goals of the company. And one of the managements mentions that it's no secret our truck drivers make over 100,000 a year. And I'm like, oh, wow. That's pretty decent money for me. I mean, like, wow,
Yeah.
like without having to do nothing illegal. So I got inspired. And next thing you know, I'm enrolled in one of the classes and I'm studying, and I eventually get my class A. And I became from a warehouse to a truck driver. So I became a truck driver doing food deliveries. And I spent my time doing deliveries and listening to music. And eventually it dawned on me like, whoa, there's other stuff. Let me listen to other stuff. And then I started listening to mindset stuff. Wow. Before that, I had zero financial education, like zero, like besides the basics, save for a rainy day. That was just the basic. And that's how it all started, little by little. And as being a truck driver, listening to educational podcasts. And in 2020, I'm already out 2 years, and I have changed. I had committed to myself that I will never go back to the same friends, and I cherish my freedom now. Like I need to do right. So in 2020, I was able to buy a house. And by then, I was listening to real estate, like, okay, do this, do that, about liabilities, about assets. And my sister asked me one day, "What's your dream home?" I said, "Well, like, whoa, nobody ever asked me that. Like, somebody like me with a record, like, why would I ask somebody like, what's a dream home? It's more like a fantasy." So I thought about it. I said, okay, maybe like a 4 bedroom, 3 baths, a 3 car garage, swimming pool, like, basics, like everybody's dream. But then I told her, I said, well, the only difference is I don't want to jump to that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to get stuck. Like, really, like, if I have one humongous mortgage, like, that's going to be like one risk away, one injury away that, hey, red alert.
Mhm.
So I said, once I get this other house, I said, this is the type of house I want. I said, I want a house that's going to have something that's going to offset the mortgage. So that's how it all started. I bought one house in 2020 that had an ADU, and I
Mhm.
got to experience the offset of the mortgage. And so that right there just opened up my eyes like, wow, I like that idea. Wow, okay. So about 6 months later, I called my real estate agent and I asked her, I said, hey, I'm ready. I'm pumped. Like, hey, can I buy another house? Like, I like this idea. She goes, yeah, you can, but you haven't been there a year. You have to wait if you want a low down payment. I said, snap. So she goes, but you could buy one with as an investment loan, 20% down. I said, oh, that's kind of high. I said,
Mm,
okay. So I didn't want to do what a lot of people do and just stay in the sidelines and just wait and hopefully everything works out. So I was like, you know what? I told her on the phone. I said, okay, I'm ready. Let's look for something. She goes, okay. I told her the criteria. I need cash flow. I want to, generate another income. And by then, I'm like I said, my education level was barely beginning. And one of them that always kept them that generated in my mind was you need to develop multiple sources of income, not just have one income from work. And they're like, I'm listening to entrepreneurs talk about that. They're talking about risk. And one of the entrepreneurs on one of the on YouTube said, risk is having one job, one income. I said, oh man, that is another eye opener.
mhm,
So next in like 6 months later, so I have two houses now. Like, I've been out 2 years. So I'm like, okay, I like this. This is momentum. And, by changing my frame, by changing my mindset, everything is changing in my life, like for the better.
mm,
And I'm saving my money. And now I want to like, hey, I'm eager. Like I'm aligned with my third
mm,
house. Like, hey, I want another
mm,
primary. Like, hey, what's up? She goes, hey, let's do it. I said, the same criteria. I need a house that has a front house and a back house. I need to offset my mortgage.
mhm.
She goes, okay, we're on it. So, next thing you know, we're closing the deal. And I have three properties now at that time. And at that time though, I'm still listening to educational podcasts and educational content on YouTube. And I hear Robert Kiyosaki's name. I wish I was kind of familiar because of my sister, and plus I already knew his name. And he said that savers are losers. I said, "Oh wow, yeah, that was like a shocker when I first heard that phrase." Then shortly after, I heard another phrase from Grant Cardone. He said, "If you have money in the bank sitting, if you have money in the bank that's not being used, it's useless." I said, "Oh, another another shocker!" Like, wow, sledgehammer. So now I realized at that time, okay, it's not about saving. Saving is the setup. Once you get the setup, you have to move your money. You have to move your money. You can't rely just on your employment. You
Mhm,
have to create incomes if you want to ever succeed in life. And I'm like, okay, now everything is snapping, opening like very, very wide. I said, okay, now I'm like, okay, let's house number four. And next thing you know, I'm closing house number four. This one was quite different, but it had the same concept. It was a 4 bedroom, two baths, and no, 4 bedroom, three baths. So there was an AD in-law quarters. So I was like, okay, this will work. All we gotta do is section it off, rent out.
mhm.
That's 2 units. I said, okay, perfect. So
Yeah.
I get that. That's another accomplishment in my life. Like, wow, four houses. And shortly, time goes on. I'm still grinding. I'm still working at the same job. I'm still saving, but for a purpose now. Now I have a bigger goal.
Mhm,
Like, hey, this. At one time, I used to look at my bank account. Like, like the more I seen it grow, is like the more I felt comfortable.
mhm,
And now I finally gave up. Like, okay, it's not about comfort. It's about investments. Like, you let it build up, take it out, use it, keep it circulating. And that's how you build wealth. You
mm.
don't build wealth by savings.
Right.
That's just the setup. That's just the setup. You can have a savings, to ease your mind at night. It's fine, but don't think that's going to create wealth. So eventually, for house number five, I was like, I'm ready for my dream home. Like I want, like I'm ready for that big house. Like I want that swimming pool. I want that three-car garage. Something that I was fantasizing seeing from a prison bus. Like,
Mm,
big old like houses. Like, people like me, like we don't have houses like that.
mm,
And My agent, we did the numbers, and I was like, yeah, I got my work income. Now I have three rentals. No, four rentals. Once I bought my fifth home, I said, okay, this money right here needs to cover my mortgage. I don't want one penny coming out of my pocket that's going to pay for my primary mortgage. And that's how it worked out.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Amazing. The small story is absolutely mind-blowing that you went from a kid in the streets to selling drugs to being in and out of jail to, in a short amount of time, turning it all around and not just owning one home, but another home and another home and another home. And you did discover the secrets of wealth building, and that is to let your money work for you, and that real estate is your greatest investment, particularly income producing real estate. This is a fantastic story. You can learn more about Eduardo's story by reading his fantastic book. It is called From Kilos to House Keys. It is a must read for anyone who believes in second chances, reinvention, and the power of mindset. Eduardo, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, sir.
Pleasure's been all mine. I appreciate your inspiration and your wonderful work on this book. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford for the Global Book Network. So long for now.